afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Believe in Me grant application information session. I'm Julie Wukulik, the CEO of Believe in Me, and I'm here to kind of step you through the entire process of successfully completing a grant application for funding with Believe in Me. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Can everybody hear me? Somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. Okay, great. Just want to make sure audio is working fine. So we're going to get started by just visiting our Youth Empowerment Grants website. You can get there by typing in believeinme.org/youth-empowerment-grants. What you'll learn when you come to this page is just basically an overview of what we're all about here at Believe in Me and what we're trying to accomplish with our Youth Empowerment Grants program. So what you'll learn is we are mission-centric, that we're looking to make a real tangible impact, that we have a focus on the Pacific Northwest region. And in everything that we do, we are attempting to make sure that we're infusing it with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want everyone to have a fair shake. And then also our expectation is that, we're going to make sure that what we're doing is transparent. We expect that of our grantees. And so we just want to make sure that we're maximizing impact with every dollar that's spent. You'll find on this page also a little bit of information, just some highlights about our eligibility criteria. We'll go a little bit more into depth in that in just a little bit. If you want to go visit the grant eligibility page, there's a link here. And then there's just a quick overview of our grant application process. So what that looks like is step one, submitting that application. It is quite lengthy, so I highly recommend that you get started early. Don't wait till the last day or your grant application will reflect it. Step two is attending your due diligence workshop. So if your grant application appears to meet all of our eligibility criteria, we're going to want to meet with you for a 30-minute meeting to kind of make sure that we understand exactly what your program is all about and develop some SMART goals for your organization and how you're going to measure your success rates. And also throughout the course of that due diligence, we're going to work with you to kind of fine tune any tweaks that we think that will make your application a little bit more powerful. Once we get that in front of the Grants Administration Committee, we really want to set you up for success. So this due diligence workshop is really all about optimizing your grant application so that we can then present that to our committee. Step three is the review of our committee. That will happen mid-November. They go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, so please don't glaze over anything. Really important pieces are to make sure that you don't leave any blank information. We want to make sure that you're well aligned and that it's really going to benefit the kids at the end of the day. And then early December, I believe it's December 6th, we're going to have our grant awards announcement celebration. And so that is how you will find out about whether or not you got the grant. And in addition to that, you'll also receive an email. So without further ado, let's move on to the next page. I wanted to really quick go over alignment with our mission. So at Believe in Me, we're all about making sure that every kid has a safe place to call home, a family that loves them, a feeling of community, and opportunities to learn, build self-esteem, and have fun. And we do that through making grants around our 5 pillars of caring. Those 5 pillars of caring are literally basically based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you're familiar with that, this won't be anything new to you, but basically we want to make sure that children's basic human needs are taken care of by making sure they have food, clothing, shelter, all those things that everyone should have, right? If you want to take a peek at what types of programs we might fund under our basic human needs pillar of caring, I highly recommend you just click on this hyperlink here that should pull up some example basic human needs programs that we would potentially fund. It could give you some ideas of what to build your program around if you don't already have something like this in place. To get back to that page that's all about our youth empowerment, 5 pillars of caring, We'll move on to love and belonging. Love and belonging is all about making sure that kids feel loved and that they belong somewhere. So some examples of what we might cover there would be anything that is helping to support the family, helping children in foster care or going through the adoption process. Maybe it's a mentorship program, even animal companionship and cultural support could be areas where a child needs to feel like they're loved and belong. So anything really helping to instill that is something that we would cover. Once again, I highly recommend hopping in to see what some of those example programs would look like. So once again, this is our believein.org/youth-empowerment page. We've gone through the basic human needs section, just talked about love and belonging, and now we're diving into community support. In the nonprofit world, we typically call these wraparound services. So anytime a kid finds himself in a rough spot, it's whatever services need to be provided to kind of lift them up as a community and help them kind of transition to a better place in life. So examples of those community support programs are also listed in this section. Education programs are our fourth pillar of caring. And those are all about empowering youth to learn and develop that thirst for knowledge. We want to make sure that they are offered the same opportunities as their peers. And so just lifting them up and making sure that they have access to high quality education. Student access is a big piece here, but things, think outside of the classroom too. So things like maybe even budgeting or a cooking class or, you know, learning how financial literacy, those are all part of a child's education. So if you have a program that might fit in with that, we certainly want to take a peek at whether or not we might fund that. But there are also some example education programs that we might fund. And then lastly, we're all about making sure that kids have opportunities to have fun through our enrichment program, Pillar of Caring. This is literally all about, you know, helping them to spin up their creativity, to have some fun, to explore a little bit. So things that we might cover would be sports, theater, performing arts, fine arts, all those things that as adults, we realize how important they are to helping us develop our sense of self and our full identity. So those are our 5 pillars of caring that we grant around. I invite you to look through those. And if you have a program that matches up well with those, then it's a good candidate for filling out a grant application. So a little bit more of a deep dive into the actual process. We mentioned before, checking your eligibility, start your application. We're already in the midst of this info session. After we are completed up here, we will post a recording of this on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to the Believe in Me YouTube channel. That way you'll always be alerted of any of the updates that we make there. But we'll post a link here to the recording. Currently, this is last year's recording, but hopefully by this time tomorrow, we should have that up and live. If you missed something, we'll have that recording out to you. We're also going to send out a recording via email. So if you missed something or you want to share it with someone on your team, you'll also have that ability there. In order to get step-by-step instructions, you'll want to visit our grant application process page. But then submitting your application, those are due on October 31st. And let's see, we've got some questions here. Let's see here. Oh no, looks like I'm creating some noise here. Can everybody hear me okay? Or do I need to redo my audio? You can hear okay? Okay, great. Just want to make sure everybody's having a good experience here. So submitting the applications, those are due no later than midnight on October 31st. We have some very tight deadlines this year. So under no circumstance will we be extending that deadline. That is a hard deadline. As far as eligibility for the grants, you need to be a 501c3 nonprofit, recognized by the Internal Revenue Service. You need to be operating your nonprofit in Washington, North Idaho, or Oregon. Your program must align with one of our 5 pillars of caring. You may submit one grant request per pillar if you have multiple programs that fit under different pillars. Some people have found this to be a great way to get more than the maximum amount of funding for your organization. We do require that you maintain current financial records. We will be requiring a copy of the operational budget and a statement of your financial position. And that is part of your application. Individual grant requests must be between $5,000 and $15,000. And I'm gonna just revise that. We didn't get the website updated, but I would even say we would go as low as 2,500 for a grant request if you've got a smaller project that you want funded. We will have to provide a list of your board members and their affiliations. And then we need a list of your board. You do need a working board of directors, proper management and oversight, governance, and accountability structures in place. So in order to check your eligibility, you can click here, or you can visit the believeinme.org/grant-eligibility. On this page, it'll go a little bit more in depth into your eligibility. And once again, you just click into the form in order to enter that. Here are some things that our grants don't cover. And so I want you to pay really close attention to this part. So any payments to individuals are not covered by our grants. Indirect costs are also not covered. Payroll and salaries are not covered. Administrative expenses are also not covered. Neither are deficits or fundraising efforts, and not lobbying either. So as you're filling out your grant application, if you're concerned that what you're submitting for might fall into one of these buckets, please feel free to reach out and I'll give you some advice on how I think we can get you covered. But just know ahead of time that these are things that will not be covered. And we fully recognize that every budget has some of these expenses in it. We just need to be able to pinpoint what portion of your program budget is being requested for the grant. And we will kind of go more in depth into that when we do our due diligence workshop. Little preview of the grant eligibility pre-screening form. We're going to ask for your name, organization type, the phone and website. And of course, I have to fill this in. And let's see here. Actually, all of you have already done this. That's why you're here most likely. So I'm actually not going to waste time filling out the eligibility form. If you are eligible for a grant, you will receive an email from us that has a link to a pre-filled out form. Most of you should have received that yesterday when our grants opened on October 1st. If you haven't received access to the grant application, go to our eligibility page. So that is the believeinme.org/grant-eligibility. Fill out the form and it should trigger our automated forms. If you don't get the form, please contact us at admin@believeinme.org. So what to expect for the grant application process is during the pre-screening page, you'll want to, make sure that you're actually eligible. Don't waste your time filling out the application if it's not a direct fit. If it's not totally obvious and you're kind of fitting a square peg into a round hole, don't waste your time. And I'd say if you have a question about it, once again, reach out to admin@believeinme.org and we'll try to give you some tips on whether or not we think that you would qualify. So once the application opens, which was yesterday, check your inbox for that email. There is a PDF of the blank form on this page. So you can click on it here. I believe there's also a link to it down below. But that'll kind of give you an idea of all the questions you'll be asked and what types of documents you need to gather to put together your grant application. We're already in this Zoom call, so I don't need to reiterate that, but basically just make sure that you gather your essential items and that you're ready when you sit down to fill out your application. There's also a comprehensive list of things to gather, so that can also help you as you're preparing to sit down and fill that out. Then you complete the application, making sure that you fill out everything completely. Important tips, and this is really important. We get a lot of questions on this. So this is, people freak out because there is a save feature. Once you save your progress on the form, it will send you a new link via email to go back into your saved application. Otherwise, it'll create a different one if you start from the link you had from the invitation to apply. So I'm not communicating this very well, but basically the email that you get that says you're eligible, here's your link to apply. Once you press save on the form, it's going to send you a new link. So don't try to re-access the application using the old link. You'll need the new link. Other big piece of advice, I'm going to just keep pressing for this one, is don't procrastinate. The application is 24 pages long, so you're going to have a really difficult time filling it out and filling it out with a quality application if you wait until the last minute. So we've got your back. So if you forget about this grant application, go on vacation and come back and forget, we're going to send you reminders. So if we don't get an application from you the week before the grant application closes, we'll send you an email to remind you. It'll have that application link in there so that you can go in and complete it. The other thing that is really important to remember is at the end of your grant application process, one of the last things you need to do is to schedule your due diligence workshop. Those are going to fill up fast and they are limited. So make sure that you get your application in on, as soon as possible and get your due diligence workshop scheduled as soon as you can. The sooner the better. Those are only half-hour long meetings, and I'm going to be doing those back to back to back for probably 2 to 3 weeks. So bear with us and please get that on the calendar as soon as possible. The Grants Administration Committee review, like I said before, that due diligence workshop is going to help you really fine-tune your SMART goals and really kind of set you up for success when we go to put your application in front of our Grants Administration Committee. And there is a bit of a waiting game. So you'll submit your applications no later than October 31st, and you won't hear about the outcome of our funding decisions until December 6th. So a little bit of a waiting game, but not too bad. What our awards process looks like is we host that grant award announcement ceremony. It's going to be the first Friday in December at noon. There's a link right here on this page to the Zoom call where we will be presenting the awards. And after that, you should receive an email if you are granted an award. It has the award agreement in it, which you'll be required to sign off on all of our requirements. You'll also be reminded what these requirements are as part of your grant application. So if you're wondering what those requirements are, they're listed in there. And also, once you accept your grant request, we will schedule a check presentation where we're going to bring the big check and we'll take some pictures and maybe even record you on video, just talking about how your program aligns with our mission and give you an opportunity to thank our donors. And then we will send you a check via the U.S. Postal Service on or before January 15th. So kind of that's our favorite time of year, is going out and doing the check presentations and really getting to know your program one-on-one. And then we do require impact reporting. There are some changes to the way that we're doing that this year based off of feedback from our prior grantees. And so the way that's going to work is if your program start and end date, that time frame is more than 4 months, we're going to require 2 grant reports. One will be in the last day of the month, halfway through your program. So take, for instance, if your program starts in January and ends in December, we're going to, cut that time frame in half. So June And then we'll give you 30 days after June 30th to fill out that first grant report. And then the second grant report, second and final, would be due on January 31st of the following year. If your program is less than 4 months, then we're only going to require it 30 days after the end of your grant program. And about the grants, grant reporting, we have had feedback that it's a cumbersome and laborious activity, but having said that, we do have a due diligence and a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that funds are being spent in the way that our donors have intended them to be spent. So we do ask for receipts, invoices, proof of payment. Printouts from your accounting software are not going to cut it. And we do actually require that people upload those receipts. So just know that ahead of time, that we've had complaints about it, but unfortunately we can't change that process. It's kind of what our board has requested as far as making sure that the funds are getting spent on what they're supposed to. So next, I am going to go ahead and dive right into the application. Once again, you'll need to just make sure that you're in alignment with our vision, our mission, our values. Take a look at those 5 pillars of caring. You'll need to indicate which one. You can actually select a couple of them if you feel that it applies to more than one. We're going to talk about our diversity and inclusion policy. You can read it here, but we want to make sure that you align with that as well as we move into working with one another. We need your organization information here. And I'm wondering if it'll let me just move forward with this application without putting in the address. You're going to see how to fill this out really fast. And website. And your organization's vision. We do like you to check this box if your organization has received funding from us in the past. That's kind of a no-brainer, but it helps us to remember to go back and look and see if your grant was in good standing or not with us. Then you'll copy paste your organization's vision, your organization's mission. And if you have any type of promotional videos, these are really, really, really important to our grants administration committee when they're reviewing these. We watch these. So if you have something that's already prepared, absolutely load it up here. We want to watch it. I wouldn't say put a ton of priority on this though. You know, fill out your application first, and if you have time left over, make a video. But if you have one already made, I highly recommend just linking it here. And then we use your logo to promote your organization and your program throughout the course of the year. So if you can upload an approved logo for us to use, that would be great. Then we want to know about your team. How many part-time staff do you have? How many full-time staff do you have? And how many volunteers do you have? Next, we're going to confirm who your primary contact should be for this grant. So this should be pre-populated. If it's not, go ahead, or if it needs to be updated at this time. Then we're going to have you provide a list of your key staff members, not all of them, just the ones that are kind of in leadership roles that are highly relevant to the program. If the position is vacant, just let us know here. And then you'll just give us the first name, last name. If there's nobody in this position, just say NA in the first name, last name, their job title, their contact information. And we do gather some demographics regarding the makeup of your key staff members. And the reason being is we really want to make sure that your organization is diverse and inclusive and that it represents equity. And so I know that as we're making hiring decisions and whatnot, we like to also make sure that we're kind of keeping that at the forefront. And this is something that we get measured by as well. So that's why we're collecting this information, is to make sure that we've got a nice diverse pool of folks that are serving the kids that we are trying to help. And so you'll repeat that for each of the roles that might potentially be on your team. This basically is just providing us with contact information for those individuals at your organization should we need to reach out to them. We never ever share this information with anyone, but we do use that internally for us to be able to get in contact with folks should we need to. On the next page, we're going to have a similar process for your board of directors. So rather than making you fill out a spreadsheet and uploading it, you can just enter that information here for each of your key board roles. So board president or chairman, your vice chair, your board secretary, and your board treasurer. Once again, that just is a way of demonstrating to us that you have proper governance over your day-to-day operations. And once again, we won't be reaching out to them unless there's a legitimate need. Then we're just asking for you to document your tax exempt status. So we'll ask what year you're incorporated, ask for your federal EIN number, upload a copy of your IRS determination letter. And if your name is different than it is on your IRS letter of determination, we give you an opportunity to describe why that might be. And then we do require the IRS form W-9 to be completed. So you'll want to click on this link. It'll pop up the form, you fill it out and then upload it here. Next page is telling us about the service area that you are impacting youth in. So we've got it broken down by city, state, region, and country. We want to know where the majority of your clients reside. You're going to get a maximum of 255 characters for that. Watch your character counts, because if it gets cut off, we don't have your full response. So if you're copy pasting, just make sure that it's under 255 characters when you're crafting your narrative, and hopefully it won't get truncated. So describe them where the majority of your characters reside. And then briefly describe the population that your organization serves. And this is a question that I think sometimes confuses people, but we want to know kind of what your market size is, like how many potential clients are there in your service area. They don't have to be people that you're actually serving yet, but they could be in your target area. We want to know how many potential there is, and then we want to know how many actual clients you serve per year. So what that shows us is there room for growth for your program? And by funding it, are we going to be able to kind of help you reach more of those kids? So that's why we ask those two separate questions. And then we want to know, some organizations also serve adults. So we'd like to know what percentage of your clients are children and young adults under the age of 24. That'll help us give an idea of what the majority of your clients look like from an age standpoint. And if there are any requirements for clients to meet in order to be eligible for your services, please let us know here. A good example here is if you're looking to help children that are living in a low economic neighborhood, maybe if they come from a Title I school, and that is how you qualify them for your services. So that'd be an example of what you might put there. This next section also helps us to better understand the community that you are serving. And I just want to emphasize here that we want to make sure that if a child is facing marginalization of any type, we want to know. And there's all different types of marginalization factors that exist out there. If you want to go and review the marginalization factors that we consider our top priorities, you can go to our About page on the Believe in Me website. That's at believeinme.org/about. We have a section in there for marginalization, and you can kind of see what our priorities are. But that's why we ask for this information, is to make sure that the programs that we are funding actually serve those populations. And how we identify those populations are going to be different based on the characteristics or the marginalization factors. But the first one that we gather information on is demographics for ethnicity and race. And so our goal here is to kind of help raise awareness on the fact that we should be collecting this information if possible so that we have a better idea of who we're serving. If you do not collect this information, that doesn't automatically disqualify you. Most counties and cities are collecting this information and publishing it for you to then be able to, you know, if your client population is a correct representation of what your community looks like, then you can go ahead and use those percentages here. Just remember, these are percentages, not numbers, okay? Also, if you don't have the data or you don't have any clients meeting these characteristics, then you'll just want to enter a 0. Make sure you don't enter any commas, don't enter any spaces, and the non-numeric characters cannot be included either. So don't put a percentage mark in there, just put the number. No commas, no spaces, and no non-numeric characters. Next factor that we look at is economic factor. So we want to know how many or what percentage are living in a household below the poverty line, experiencing food insecurity, chronically without housing, transitioning between living with housing and permanent housing, and without housing, and then also experience episodic times without housing. Also, family dynamics are a factor that we take into account as well. So kids who have aged out of the foster care system or are living in the foster care or as a ward of the state, children of incarcerated parents, parents who are unemployed, parents who did not graduate high school or didn't attend college, and then also single parent households. These are all factors that we would take into consideration for your application. And let's see here. Next page is all about health and ability. So if you serve a certain percentage of kids who are living with a physical disability or a mental health issue, possibly a learning disability, chronic illness, or some sort of substance abuse disorder, we'd like to know those percentages. And then also orientation is a marginalization factor that we hold near and dear to our hearts as well. So if they identify as LGBTQ, are gender non-conforming or non-binary or intersex, we would like to know those percentages. Also, culture and faith. Belonging to some minority religious groups can cause marginalization. So if that applies to you, we'd like to know that. And then learning and cognitive marginalization factors include limited or no access to a quality education, students who exit school prematurely, and those with learning difficulties but do not have a learning disability. Trauma is also another marginalization factor that we take into account. So survivors of domestic violence, abuse, or trauma, survivors of human trafficking, or kids who are experiencing time in the juvenile justice system. And then social and geographic data. Are they living in a high crime rate area? Are they living in a rural area with limited access to resources? Perhaps they're isolated and they don't have access to technology. And language, also non-native English speakers and a lack of fluency in English. Pregnant teens or young parents, out of place youth, youth without citizenship or documentation, and then youth experiencing child labor. So those are kind of those marginalization factors. I know that that part always seems pretty cumbersome, but like I said, if you're not collecting the data, you can put in zeros, or you can go to like your county or city website, find out what their percentages are, and just kind of apply them across the board if your client population is a decent representation of what your community looks like. Then on to the fun part, income and expenses. So we want to know which funding area you think that you match up with best. So is it that basic human needs, love and belonging, community support, education program, or enrichment program? So these are, you're like self-reporting to us how you think you align with our mission and our values. Then I want you to give your program a name if it doesn't already have one. Ideally, it's been in progress and you're just asking for additional funding, but we need something that's going to help it stand out from other programs and really communicate what it does. We want to know how many kids are supported by the specific grant request, and then provide a brief description of your program for this funding area. Once again, this will be truncated if it's longer than 1,000 characters. So make sure if you're copy pasting that all of your characters go in, and tighten it up a little bit if it's too long. We also want to know what community problem the grant request is going to solve. What are you seeking to accomplish with these funds? This really helps us to better understand why you're asking for the funding. If you have any videos specifically about your program that you're requesting funds for, please put the link to it in here so we can go watch it. Like I said, we love the videos. Really helps us to get to know your program a lot better. But once again, don't spend too much time making a video if you don't have one. Get the application filled out first. We can always add a hyperlink in later if you want to get that to us later. On to the budget. So this is basically our way of indicating that or demonstrating that you have a financial need that, believe in me, needs to fill. So you're going to let us know how much you're requesting from Believe in Me. You're going to let us know how much you're requesting from other sources, and then how much you've already got committed from the other sources. And then you'll give us the detail of the other sources. So and likewise, in-kind donations can play a big role in your programs. So we would like to know the fair market value of any in-kind donations that you plan to have for this program. And then you, just like you did above, you can kind of itemize what those are and where they're coming from. Those do have significant value. We're going to hop into the program expenses. So we want to know what your program staff salary is, how much you're spending on program materials or supplies, program equipment, client services, program development, program outreach, evaluation and impact assessment, and program services. So of the program services expensed above, we'd like for you to itemize the expenses that you're specifically requesting funding for. And I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to say it again. We don't pay staff salaries and we don't pay overhead. We don't pay administrative fees. So great examples of things that you can get. Our program materials, our supplies. Itemize those down here. We've got some examples here of program equipment, maybe soccer balls and uniforms, program outreach, which would be some promotional flyers, but it really helps us identify the items within your budget that we can cover. Then we're going to do a similar practice for management and general expenses. We don't want this to exceed more than 15% of your overall program budget, so kind of keep an eye on that. We're going to look at the staff salaries and benefits, your office rent and utilities, your supplies, professional services, insurance, communication and technology, training and development, and management in general. And once again, we've got some examples of things that we would cover here. So if you've got training that you're going to do for 10 staff, and I want to be very clear, this is not staff time. This would be paying for the ACEs training for an organization to come in and do training, or you're going to pay for a platform that your staff can use, but it's not staff time. We would also cover liability insurance if that was something that you needed in order to do the program. And then fundraising expenses, I've mentioned before, we don't really cover these, but if it's a part of what your program budget is, we've got spots here for you to tell us how much you're spending on marketing and advertising, fundraising events, fundraising supplies, donor management, fundraising staff. Just give us an idea of what that is. We don't typically pay for fundraising type marketing materials. Having said that, if you are using the marketing function to raise awareness for your program with your client population, that is something that we would consider covering. So if it's funding to pay for a way for you to get the word out about the services you're providing, that is something that we would consider. Then we want to know more about your program goals and timelines. As I mentioned before, we're going to fine tune this during your due diligence workshop meeting. But we want to know what your KPIs or your key performance indicators are. How are you going to measure success for your program? Ideally, you will already have these in place, so it should be, easy copy paste for you. But we have some examples here of how to set a SMART goal. All of your goals should be in this SMART goal format. You're going to define the who, what, when, and where of your goal with your SMART objectives. You're going to track your progress in a quantitative way using very measurable goals. We want this goal to be achievable, so don't give us a pie in the sky number. We need something that looks realistic, and it needs to be relevant to your organization's mission and what you're trying to accomplish with the program. And then it needs to be time bound. Give us a time constraint that you plan to reach this goal by. And so here's a good example of what a SMART goal might look like. You'll say, throughout the course of the previous quarter, our program was able to serve X number of marginalized youth by providing them with XYZ. This is an increase in the number of youth served by 15% in comparison to last year, which exceeds our original goal by 5%. So you can kind of see that we want some more specifics there as far as how you're measuring. So you're going to kind of take a stab at creating a SMART goal. We will review this with you during your due diligence workshop. And we want you to specifically state here how you're going to measure the progress of this SMART goal so that you kind of have a plan ahead of time for how you're going to measure it. What key performance indicators will you use to measure that success? And then you're going to tell us what your baseline is right now. If it's 0, that's fine. Just tell us that baseline is 0. We haven't done this yet. And, we have 0 kids that we're helping, but we want to increase the number of kids that we're supporting by 10 or 20, whatever the number is. But we want to see that marked improvement as the result of our grant funding to you. And then we want you to define the resources needed to achieve this goal and how your grant request will help you to reach your objectives. This is where I want you to go back to your budget and look at those items that you put in your itemized description for each of your expense areas. Tell us how purchasing that item will help you reach your objectives. And then this last section is all about how this grant request fits within our 5 pillars of caring. Be really explicit for us. You've already told us that, you think it matches with love and belonging, but tell us why. Give us the why behind that and the how. We're also going to ask for the program and start date and program end date, and we will be using those to calculate when your impact reports are due. We also place a high value on innovation and collaboration. So if you've got something innovative about your program that nobody else is doing, we want to know about it. We kind of give extra love to those that are innovative and doing something, thinking outside the box. And then also, if you're collaborating with another agency, we really love that too. We want to see that, 2 nonprofits are working together to move the needle together. And so let us know if you're collaborating with another agency to make your program successful. As I mentioned earlier, you are able to submit multiple grant requests under another pillar of caring. If you choose to do that, you'll want to click on this plus add item, and it'll open up another section for you to fill out for your a new program budget for that one, as well as all of the rest of these details. So it is like filling out another grant request, but all the stuff that remains the same at your agency level will not change. But this little guy right here is how you add another grant request. And then when you click next, we're going to ask for your financial records. So we're going to ask for a PDF of your most recent financial statements that have been ideally audited, or you can provide us with your last 2 years of profit and loss statement. We also ask for a copy of the management letter associated with your most recent audit. If you don't have one of those, then please just type a note into a doc and upload it here in PDF format to let us know that you don't have a management letter. Likewise, we would like your overarching organizational budget. So as I mentioned before, the budget that you created before should be just at the program level, not your total operating budget. It's just your program budget for your grant request. But this is where you would upload your actual operating budget for your organization. And then we also would like to get a copy of your most recent IRS Form 990. Also, I believe that we do have one video grant that we're going to be able to make out this year. We've partnered with Stage 2 Studios out of Denver, Colorado. This is valued at over $15,000 and it's not publicly communicated. This is not publicized. Only those folks who are invited to apply for our grant are eligible to submit this application. So be sure to kind of read this over. I'm not going to spend a ton of time going over this. We've actually won an Emmy with this team for the work that they've done with us. If you go to our YouTube page, you can watch the video about our brand and kind of what we're all about. And that's what we won the Emmy for. But if you want to be considered for this opportunity, go ahead and fill this section out. We probably won't announce this at the same time as our regular grants because we have a different committee that reviews these. Having said that, you don't have to fill this out. These are not required fields. So if you don't want to be considered for this, you can skip it by just clicking next. And then last but not least, the terms and conditions of our grant application. If you are awarded a grant, well, first off, in order for you to be fully eligible, you need to attend that due diligence workshop and kind of make the suggestions that we recommend. You need to agree that you're going to use the grant funds only as specified in the approved grant proposal. So salaries and payroll are not approved uses of the grant funding. You'll need to maintain financial records to account for the use of the grant funds. I can't stress this enough, how important it is. Keep your receipts, keep your invoices. Even if you just put them in a plastic bag and then scan them at the end of the year, that's better than not keeping records. So you will be required to provide those receipts for your expenses associated with the grant award. If you want more details about how intense that is, feel free to go to our YouTube channel and watch the grant impact report information session from last year. You'll get an idea of what our reporting process is like. You will have to agree that you allow the foundation to review your records to verify those grant expenditures and that the activities match up with what you've requested. You're going to provide us with written acknowledgement that you've received the grant funds once we pay you. And if there's any portion of the funds not used for the specified purpose, that you agree to repay that portion of the funds not used properly. We also want you to refrain from the use of funds for any purpose not allowable by the law. And we want you to cooperate with our efforts to publicize the grant. We will be giving your brand a lot of love, and we're hoping that you'll give us some love back too. All of our grant applications are subject to our grant program policies, which we reserve the right to change those at any given time. So that pretty much concludes my presentation. And so I'm just going to open it up for questions if anybody has any questions.
Julie, there's a bunch of questions in the chat for you to answer.
Okay, so I am going to answer questions that will apply to the whole group. If not, Nadia will download this list of questions and we'll get back in touch with you. Let's see here. Someone's asking if it's fair to say that general operations is not covered and that we're looking for specific projects. And I would say yes, those are going to be much more likely to be covered by these grants. Kyle is asking if you need to schedule the due diligence workshop by the 15th of October or November. It's actually the 13th of November. I do want to say to everyone that Our grant application right now has some old dates inside of it. So inside the grant application, be really careful. For the most current and up-to-date dates, please refer to the website. And if you see anything that doesn't match up, please let us know. We want to get that fixed right away. We're working with our tech team to update the grant application itself with those newer dates, but they're having some technology glitches on the backside. So we will, like I said, just ignore the dates that are inside the grant application and pay attention to the ones on the website. And those due diligence workshops have to be completed by November 13th. Someone's asking about uploading the video. Right now we have it set to just upload. I'm more than happy once we get access into the grant application to go in and change that to be a hyperlink, but in the time being, for the time being, if you can't get it to upload there, just email that to admin@believeinme.org and ask us to attach it to your grant application. We'd be more than happy to do that for you. Kate is asking, do they have more board members than there are slots in the application? There are a number of regular board members. Any advice on how to handle that? I believe there is a click plus to add, but if not, we don't need your entire board of directors. We just want to see that you have proper governance and governance structure in place. We're not doing a deep dive into your board other than just to make sure that you have proper governance. Demographic survey coming out at the end of the year. Cliff Hansen is asking about just entering zeros in the demographic questions. I'd say that would be okay as long as you give us your most current demographic data. You can send that via email to admin@believeinme.org. I think I answered Kate's question about if you don't track that demographic data, it's totally okay to apply your city or county statistics. Let's see here. The demographic questions are not a make it or break it thing for us. If you don't fill them out at all, that will definitely put your application down lower on the list. So I highly recommend at least giving it some attention and giving us an idea of what your population of kids looks like. Let's see here. Yes, we will be sending out a recording. Do we have any other questions? Oh, looks like someone wants to know how to book a due diligence session. That is on the very last page or second to last page of the grant application. When you get to that point, it's either there or when you press submit, it'll pop up a page where you can schedule the due diligence meeting. So any other questions before we hop off? Well, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today for our grant application information session. I wish you all the best of luck. I just want to thank all of you for the wonderful work that you're doing to support marginalized youth in our community. We really appreciate you. Take care and have a wonderful day.